Let me give an update to a story we reported and a correction to a name we submitted. Columbus PD lawsuit, remember this story, all right? We are issuing a direct correction to a name, and I wanna make sure we get this right for the record. There's a brief recap, let me give you the recap of this story. Timothy L. Hawkins of Orlando said in a federal court filing last year that he was arrested at gunpoint in his home by US Marshals in September 2020 and spent 7 days in jail at the height of the COVID outbreak. A Franklin County judge dismissed the charges a week later after finding that Hawkins was very obviously not the perpetrator. Not only did his description not match, his height did not match, his name did not match, but because they lacked to do investigative prowess in the beginning, they had to then have it cleaned up by a federal judge on the back end. Let's put up the picture of the current chief of police. Her name is Elaine, that is Chief Elaine Bryant. We named Chief Elaine Bryant and it was accurate. She is the current chief. It was, however, former Chief Thomas Quinlan who was in charge at the time of the incident in question. Take a good look at him. This is a 30-year veteran. He was chief from February 9th, 2019 to January 28th, 2021, short stint, and was viewed with divided opinions by the community. I'm gonna get into that, let's keep his picture up. He had not even ended his probationary period as chief before he was forced to resign, and was then demoted to deputy chief because of his failure to meet the needs of city leadership and the community. His resignation as chief also came after one of his officers had fatally shot an unarmed black man in December 2020. Mayor Andrew Ginter said the chief lost public trust after failing to successfully implement the reform and change I expect and that the community demands. Community leaders at that time had told the mayor repeatedly he had made the wrong choice in appointing that chief. Reports on the chief's resignation also highlighted reforms following the George Floyd protest, where police use of force, particularly by the Columbus PD, came under fire amid demands for change. When Quinlan became chief, the mayor made it clear that he was tasked with fighting racism in the community and within the division, following an August 2019 report from the Matrix Consulting Group that concluded, in part, that Columbus police have a significant disparity of use of force against minority residents that the city must address. Let's go back to the photo of the chief again, okay? An investigation into this chief and his efforts and attitude with certain reforms were clearly not in line with the public's expectations of police reform. In recent news, former Columbus Vice Officer Stephen Rosser was sentenced to 18 months in prison for doing what? Depriving a victim's civil rights. A jury found this man right here guilty of conspiracy to violate an individual's civil rights February 2022. Rosser was employed for 19 years and worked as a vice detective from April 2013 to October 2018. He was fired in 2019 and later indicted and arrested in March of 2020. Let me be very clear. To the mayor of the city, I'm gonna give you some advice, unsolicited here. What you tried to do is a good thing. And you then fired the chief because you believe that the leadership can clean up the corruption. Sometimes the corruption is so core to the character and the culture of that agency that you cannot think reform, you must think replacement. One leader will not transform the culture of what you have in front of you. You have to let some folks go. You're going to have to make some tough decisions about everyone in that agency. According to court documents and testimony, Rosser and others conspired to deprive the civil rights of one of the owners of a gentleman's club by seizing and searching him and his vehicle without probable cause and violation of the 4th Amendment to the US Constitution. During the trial, the government presented evidence that Rosser was part of a scheme to do what? To frame the victim for cocaine possession. The actual amount of cocaine planted on the scene as part of the plot was minuscule, a minuscule amount, approximately 0.17 grams. Authorities say Rosser falsified documentation to conceal the conspiracy activity after orchestrating the fraudulent arrest. Do you think he did this alone? Do you think he's the only person engaging in this kind of criminal conspiracy conduct? Mayor, you got a problem. Now, you know the problem that you have. Here's a novel idea. Coordinate with your state agency and your local sheriff's office, and I want you to consider firing everybody on that police force. It has been done. We just recently had a story of it a few days ago. You got a clean shop now for the sake of the community that elected you. Listen to them this time. You did not listen to them before, and you see what happened. Ricky, what are your thoughts here?
I think two things, Dr. Rich. Just like they have laws with people perpetrating the police and pretending to be the police in order to rob people or take advantage of somebody, those same laws should apply to police officers that falsify documents and plant cocaine, weed, whatever, to get people put in legal jams like that, because it's almost no different in my opinion. Anybody, falsifying, pretending to be the police officer to get advantage of, to take advantage of somebody or to do somebody bodily harm in the hands of somebody, because you're held to a higher standard.
That's right.
Police officer. So yeah, sometimes you have to take 3 steps backwards in order to take 2 steps forward in order to do the right thing. Because when a dentist, you put Orajel on your tooth, and that's just for a minute. But what a dentist does, it goes all the way down into the tooth and pull the nerve out when you get a root canal, and then they build the tooth back up and then put the cap on. So it's not just like putting a cap on a rotten tooth, but you have to go in and get the decay out and take the nerve out and build the tooth back up in order to have that. That's just an analogy.
Great analogy.
Done to a lot of police departments all over the country.
Such a great analogy. Such a great analogy. And I believe, as you just said, cops have to be held to a higher standard of accountability. Think about it. Every profession, if you're a medical doctor, psychiatrist, a professor, you're held to a higher standard of care as it relates to the people you serve. Except for policing. In police, they get all kinds of perks, qualified immunity. They get held to a lower standard of accountability with the law. They can lie on police reports without any penalty. That doesn't make sense. You're a professional for a reason. That means that you should know better than the average citizen. And that's why you are held to a higher standard of accountability.